Once you've wrapped up this podcast, how about trying a very British cult?
What happens if the person you trust with your future isn't what you think they are?
I did feel the whole time he was watching me.
Yeti?
I saw a footprint, and that really gave me goosebumps.
Or people who knew me?
Emmy, I remember every secret, every lie. I'm the only one who knows the truth.
Discover more of our biggest podcasts from 2023. Listen on BBC Sounds.
BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.
Hello and welcome to the Scottish Football Podcast, bringing you all the news, reaction and analysis you need to start your week. It's the evening of Sunday the 17th of December as we record. I'm Alistair Lamont, and coming up...
Drops Tavernier's way, he shoots and scores!
We assess where the League Cup final was won and lost as Rangers get their hands on the trophy for the first time since 2011. Also...
Kingsley! Oh, it's wonderful! That is what he's capable of!
After defeat at home to Hearts, what's going wrong at Celtic? And it's the post-match interview that's got everyone talking.
I've been back here and I see the standard and I think, wow, any chance? If I'm a spectator and watching that today, I'm thinking, is this what Scottish football's about?
We'll discuss Derek Adams' controversial comments.
This is the Scottish Football Podcast from BBC Sport Scotland.
Well, I'm joined today by, first of all, former Rangers and Aberdeen defender and 4 times League Cup winner, Davy Robertson. How are you, Davy?
I'm good, yep, very good.
Good stuff. And also joining us, Inverness Caley Thistle striker Killian Sheridan. How are you, Killian?
Very good, thank you, Alistair.
Good stuff. Right, let's crack on. There's lots to get through, but first let me quickly run through today's Scottish football headlines. Rangers have won the first silverware of the Scottish season with a 1-0 win over Aberdeen in the Viaplay League Cup final at Hampden. Scottish Premiership leaders Celtic lost 2-0 at home to third-placed Hearts on Saturday. It was the Edinburgh club's first away win over the Glasgow Giants since 2009. I mean, Rangers could go top if they win both their games in hand. Raith Rovers are 5 points clear of Dundee United at the summit of the Championship after beating them 1-0 at Tannadice on Saturday. Rangers extended the lead in the SWPL after they won 4-0 against Hamilton Accies, and Celtic drew 1 each away to 6th place Hearts. And the Liverpool and Scotland legend Sir Kenny Dalglish will be honoured with the Lifetime Achievement Award at the BBC Sports Personality of the Year event. OK, well, let's start with events at the National Stadium at Hampden on Sunday. Davey, we'll start with you, given that you've won so many of these medals. What did you make of the game overall?
Yeah, I think the game, for the first 70 minutes was pretty, both teams couldn't really create anything in the final third. Rangers got into that final third, but the little combinations didn't quite come off, lost the ball a little bit. Aberdeen, who's obviously a main threat, is in behind for the 2 strikers. It didn't quite come off for them either. But I think one of the main reasons was, which I don't know how it happened, was the fact that they had 2 days to recover. Cup finals meant a big special day. You don't get to play in many finals. And I think both teams, it took them a good bit of time to get going. But I think when obviously Rangers got that goal, probably just before that, Rangers had a couple of wee chances, and so did Aberdeen, a couple of good balls in, crosses, a free kick. But then once Rangers got the goal, I think after that Aberdeen just threw everything at them, and Rangers defended well to hang on, but it certainly wasn't a spectacular, cup final. I mean, I've played in a few myself, and I don't think maybe there was one game it was a good game to watch. The rest of them been pretty ugly. So I think for Rangers' point of view, difficult game on Thursday, a bit of a high, and then coming into the game on today, it's just a case of do whatever you can to win the cup, and the Rangers managed to do that. Unfortunately, Aberdeen, so often this season have just fell short a little bit, but to be honest with you, on the day, I think either team could have won it.
Killian, from your perspective, Davey mentions there, for Rangers, it really wasn't about the performance, was it? It was all about getting that another bit of silverware, the first obviously under Philippe Clement, and it caps an incredible week for them, doesn't it?
Yeah, no, it was a massive week for them. Did a great result away in Spain. Probably, I don't think many people thought they would go and win the game. So for them, that was a massive, for Scottish football as well, it capped off a really good week, I think. And then that probably gave them a lot of confidence going into the final. It's also, Aberdeen probably had a bit of, not pressure on them, but because they've had some good results against Rangers over the last few years, they probably were going in with a little bit more expectation than they might have before. So it did make it for like an even final where you wouldn't normally expect, if Celtic or Rangers are playing a team that's not one of the other, they're always very heavily favourites. Where I felt like in this final it was kind of, if Aberdeen won, it wasn't as big of an upset as it might have been previously. And then given the fact that both teams had such a small turnaround from the games, it just doesn't help. Like, finals aren't generally good games. It's usually a final you'll remember who won or who lost. You don't really remember if it was a good game or not. And I think they probably could have been helped. Both teams could have been helped with it having a bit more recovery time and stuff, just to improve the spectacle.
Yeah, it's that age-old thing, though, isn't it, Davey? When you're in Europe, clearly you want to be in Europe, but the games come so thick and fast. But just looking at Rangers' turnaround, if you like, under Philippe Clement, how impressed have you been by what he's managed to create in the short time he's been in charge?
I think it's been pretty extraordinary, really, because at the end of the day, it's the same players that Michael Beale had, and he's gone 13 games unbeaten. Obviously winning a cup, fantastic result against Betis the other night. And you think to yourself, what, maybe 10, 12 weeks ago, everybody's talking about Rangers season being finished. Now they won the League Cup, the last 16. Obviously Celtic dropped points yesterday. So, it's been a massive boost for the club. And I did the halftime draw at Ibrox a couple of weeks ago. And, I've always said that Rangers need a manager with a real stature about him. And I remember seeing him at that halftime just walking past me, and he's huge. He just demands respect. And I think he's a no-nonsense manager. And I think that's what you really need, a big club like Rangers. And I don't think anyone can ask any more, what he's achieved, so in a very, very short time. And I think the club will just go on. And, they've still got the transfer window to come, so they might be bringing in some more players. But, I just think it's amazing how the same group of players have just totally, turned it around. And I watched him come out at half-time after the manager's talk at half-time, and you saw it was McCausland and Todd Cantwell, just all smiles on their faces. It was look as if they were going to enjoy playing, and it just seems like there's a huge cloud being lifted, and them get out there, express themselves, and it's been fantastic so far.
I want to talk a little bit about James Tavernier, because he's been criticised at times by the Rangers fans, but he's got another big moment again today. The goal clearly to win the trophies. Now that's him won all three of the domestic trophies in Scotland. And I mean, his goal and assists record's incredible, isn't it? Davey, I mean, as a former fullback yourself, I guess the role has changed somewhat. Albeit I do remember you bombing up the left flank at times, putting the crosses in, maybe not scoring so many goals, but he's quite an incredible player for Rangers, isn't he?
Yeah, I think he's probably scored more goals in games I've played, to be honest. He's just been, it's phenomenal. And like you say, the big games he comes up with, it's an Old Firm game, a European game, all sorts. And a lot of people talk about penalties, but, the one today, a couple of balls in the first half went into that area, and I think he said in his interview afterwards that's where he planned to be in the second half, and he took the chances. But I think the most pleasing thing for me is that he was there when the Rangers were in the Championship, and he stayed there throughout, the success. And, he does it in Europe, he's done it in cup finals, and obviously he's now the captain. So it's, it's remarkable how he's, obviously when he first came to the club, it's probably a case of what players can they get in at that point. But he's been one of the very, very few that have stayed there. And, some people criticise his defending, but, I think his offensive play offsets maybe the mistakes now and again at the back. And I think, more the Rangers fans just want that goals. They've even got a wee song about him. So, no, I think it's fantastic, the career he's had, and obviously it's not going to end yet.
Just on Aberdeen, Davey, I mean, clearly the city and the club very well. And there is a kind of unique pressure almost, it seems to me, in being associated with Aberdeen, and certainly being the Aberdeen manager. Expectations are still very high. What do you think this result means for Aberdeen's season? What do you see happening from now on?
I think we should take a lot of confidence from it, because, like I said earlier, I think the game could have gone anyway. Like, it wasn't the greatest game, but it came down, they competed, and went a goal behind, and they fought back. But Aberdeen's season, in Europe, I think in general, they've played well in games, and maybe not got the results they deserve. And, like you say, Aberdeen manager is very, very tough. You're expected to, at the very, very worst, finish third, get to a cup final, maybe win a cup. Obviously Barry's done that. But, I've noticed, obviously social media is a tough place to go and look if you're a manager. And, at the end of last season, he, rightly so, great run, finished third, certainly deserved the job. And this season, it's going to take time. Great results at times, great performances, maybe not the results they deserve. But, I think they have to, instead of this way of just a couple of bad results, let's get rid of him. 2 weeks ago, everybody wanted rid of him. Good result on Thursday against Eintracht. Good performance here. I just think they've got to give him time. He is a young manager. The board knew that when they brought him on, and they've just got to give him time. I mean, in previous years, Aberdeen, after Alec Ferguson, moved on Alex Smith quite quickly, and then William Miller. And, William Miller, in the season before he got sacked, actually got to the League Cup final, Scottish Cup final, and finished second in the league, and he got sacked. So the standards are very high, expectations more than anything, but they do have to stick by him, give him the time, and, he's got another transfer window coming, and they'll pick up points, and they'll move up the table, and obviously they've still got, a lot to play for this season.
Okay, let's take a quick look at Saturday's games, and no bigger result or shock, you could probably say, than Hearts' win at Celtic Park. They've now dropped more points at home this season than they did the whole of last season, losing back-to-back games in the league for the first time since 2013. There's quite a number of records fell at the weekend. Killian, what do you think's gone wrong, if anything, at the moment at Celtic Park?
I think it just seems to be that intensity, I think, that Brendan Rodgers wants to play with. I think he's kind of he seems to be making the case for players that he needs better players, or he needs players that can execute the game plan that he wants to play, the way he wants to play. And I think it's just the way he wants to play, it needs that intensity in terms of the passing, moving the ball, getting in behind quicker rather than, because I think teams now know that if they just set up in front and into banks, that they can kind of shut them out. And if they're just patient with it, teams are getting good results against them. And I think that was probably the case yesterday. Celtic had chances, but it was kind of like a little bit huffing and puffing, but no real, just lacked that real killer finish, I think.
It seems odd, because I know that you were there on Wednesday for us doing the Champions League game when they got that great win over Feyenoord, that they can turn in a performance and a result as good as that in between two below par performances in the league, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's consistency. That's when good teams are consistent. Good players, top players are consistent. Every player can play a really good game. It's about doing it every week. And at teams like Celtic, that's the level. You have to be consistent every single week. Every time you're playing a team, it'll be one of their biggest games of the season. They're there to be the team that beats Celtic. So it's about accepting that and matching it, and then lifting your game to the levels where you need to be at, I think. And I think Brendan Rodgers as the manager will have very high demands and expectations. And I think he's probably, it sounds like it, that he's a little bit disappointed with what he's getting back, maybe, in terms of that from some of the players.
Yeah, it certainly does. Davey, you were talking about the expectations of Aberdeen being third minimum, and I guess you could say the same for Hearts, and that feels like a big result and performance for them. Do you see them also kicking on from this?
Yeah, Dev, I think it gives everyone a big boost when you beat any of the Old Firm. I think, particularly doing it away from home as well, it's fantastic. And obviously Hearts went there knowing there's a little bit of a weakness, within the Celtic at the moment, obviously having lost the week before. And then obviously that if you get on top of them, the crowd will turn against them. And I think obviously that's what happened. And it's a very difficult environment playing in an Old Firm team, and people are up against you, the supporters are booing you and giving you a hard time. It gets onto you onto the pitch as well. But I think one of the things Killian mentioned it as well. An Old Firm team, you have to win every week. You can't have an off day or 1-2 games and they're on your case. And I think that's been the case. But I do feel, having been there, winning things and whatever, you have to do it every year. Other clubs you can win at a trophy now and again, but Celtic you have to do it every year. And it's the motivation when you come into the following season, you win the league, you win everything. You've got to keep doing it again. And very few players can actually raise themselves all the time, and Hearts obviously felt there was a little bit of a weakness there. Obviously they went for it, and it was a fantastic result. Normally in those types of games, teams out with the Old Firm maybe get a goal up or a couple of goals, but inevitably you end up drawing or losing. But they managed to hang on, and it was relatively comfortable. So that'll give Hearts a huge lift, and I think third place is definitely up for grabs, and they've actually impressed me, a lot this season.
You're listening to the Scottish Football Podcast.
Well, there weren't too many goals in the other games, it has to be said. A good win for St Johnstone, certainly against Hibs. Livy's game against Kilmarnock and St Mirren Motherwell were both goalless. Dundee beat Ross County 1-0 in Dingwall, thanks to Joe Shaughnessy's 97th minute winner, which prompted this extraordinary outburst by the county manager, Derek Adams, after the game.
The game was really poor. The standard is shocking, really. It's one of the worst games I've ever seen. It's just, I've been back here and I see the standard and I think, wow, any chance? If I'm a spectator and watching that today, I'm thinking, is this what Scottish football's about? The standard's rubbish, and it really is. And, I've left a team down in League 2 that's miles better than this team. Miles. And that's saying something. We had the bottom budget in League 2 and we're 100 times better than this.
What do you make of those comments?
I heard James McFadden talking about it, and what he was saying was probably bang on the money, where say that about your own team, but when you're kind of criticising everyone else in the league, where everyone knows the difference between up here in England is the money. There's no hiding from that, and it makes such a big difference. So like everyone up here is kind of up against it. They're doing their best to put out a good product, to have good football. Every team is well supported. There's good turnouts at games. It was a bit bizarre, and probably in the heat of the moment, maybe he's come out and said it. I don't know if I'd be maybe more impressed if he came out and doubled down on it, but it was bizarre.
Davey, now I think anyone who's seen your documentaries will know that you kind of speak quite frankly at times, but I don't think I've ever heard you saying something like that. What was your own take on it?
I think it was sheer frustration. I mean, I did a coaching course with Derek before, and he is very level-headed, but I think maybe the way they lost the goal. I mean, it's never easy losing a goal in the last kick of the ball, particularly the type of goal it was when it came off the chest kind of thing. So, but again, there's no excuse for coming out and saying those things. But that's a problem being a manager. You get maybe 5 minutes before you've got to go and talk to media, and sometimes things come out your mouth at you. It's to my cost. Goes against you, and this will live with Derek for many, many years. He could avoid relegation this year, win the Scottish Cup, do whatever, but he'll be remembered for this. But it was bizarre as well, because it's his fourth or fifth game in charge as well. So obviously the other 4 games couldn't have been that bad. But it's, as I said, I think it's just sheer frustration. He'll look back and probably be embarrassed by it. He might even apologise with the whole thing. But I've been in these shoes before, and it's the most frustrating job in the world. That's why I've got no hair, and why I don't intend to get back into it. So
the other thing, sorry, it could give other teams now that over the next few weeks that they're playing against, it gives other teams who are going to go and play them now a big incentive now to it'll have all their backs up now when they're going to play them.
Absolutely. No, I mean, I think the thing is, I think we all accept that at times what we see in the park can sometimes not be great, but on other occasions you see some terrific games, some terrific stuff. I watched a Morton goal, for instance, yesterday on Twitter, and it was a brilliant move, and that's the team down towards the bottom of the championship, and it was a great goal. So I think, as you guys say, I think he will come to regret that. Anyway, that is all we've got time for. My thanks to Davey Robertson and Killian Sheridan, and thank you for listening. Keep getting in touch by emailing scottishfootball@bbc.co.uk with your comments and questions about any subject at all. Maybe you want to tell us what you think of Derek Adams' comments. Remember, we're with you every day, so if you haven't done so already, subscribe and follow the Scottish Football Podcast so you don't miss an episode. Bye for now.
Hi, Hi, it's Amy Irons here. I just wanted to tell you that Sacked in the Morning is back for a new series. We are your survival guide to football management. If you want to hear exactly what goes on in the dugouts and dressing rooms across the world, then we are the pod for you. And as ever, I'll be joined by former Scotland gaffer Craig Levein and some of football's best managers to provide all the insight you could possibly need. And you can find it on BBC Sounds. Just search for Sacked in the Morning.